Hello and Assalamu alaikum. Today we will be solving another Azure lab with the title of Loot Exchange, Teams and SharePoint with GraphRunner. So initially we are given a pair of Azure credentials, should I say, of Clara Miller, and the scenario is that your red team is on an engagement and has successfully fished a megabig tech employee to gain their credentials. So far, increasing access within Azure has reached a dead end and you have been tasked with unlocking further access. In scope is the entire on-premise and cloud infrastructure. Your goal is to gain access to customer records and demonstrate impact. So we will start off with these credentials, and obviously initially we will see whether or not this account has MFA enabled on it. So I have written the commands that will be used to solve this lab here. I feel in this way we will be able to focus on the concepts rather than trying to build up the commands. First of all, we will install MFA sweep, and this is a tool that is used to check whether or not Azure credentials have MFA enabled on them. So let's see what it is all about. So MFA sweep is a PowerShell script that attempts to log into various Microsoft services. It attempts to log into Graph API, Azure Service Management API, Microsoft 365, different type of portals, and ADFS. So let's run it. First of all, invoke expression command is used that has invoke web request nested into it. So this will just import this MFA sweep module in our PowerShell terminal, and now we can use MFA sweep. So here we will be using MFA sweep. So what we are doing here is that we are calling this function. Username is Clara Miller, it is provided to us, and password is megabigtech99. It is also provided to us. As per the scenario, we got these credentials as a result of a successful phishing attack. We are giving the recon flag to obviously check whether or not MFA is enabled, and we are including ADFS. ADFS is more related to on-prem servers, and here we can see in this scenario that your goal is to gain access. In scope is the entire on-premise and cloud infrastructure. So we are also testing the ADFS, which is Active Directory Federation Service. If you want to know what exactly it is, just Google and learn. If I try to explain it here, that will go outside the scope of this video. So we execute this tool. It says Clara Miller account. This script is about to attempt logging into this account 10 times if you include 11 times if you include ADFS. If you entered an incorrect password, this may lock the account. So we know that this password is correct. Okay, so it did some working, and here we have the output. It says that Microsoft Graph API, on Microsoft Graph API we have without MFA access, or you can say single factor access. Microsoft Service Management API we have single factor access, yes. And on Microsoft 365 with Windows user agent, with Linux user agent, Mac OS, Android, iPhone, and on Exchange, ActiveSync, all of these on all of these services we have MFA enabled, and we can see that ADFS does not appear to be in use. So ADFS is not in use. So we only have two options here now, which is Microsoft Graph API and Service Management API. So what are these two APIs? I have created some notes here. Graph API is something that is solely related to fetching data from Microsoft 365 and Entra environments. So we can just have a look here. So Microsoft Graph is the gateway to data and intelligence. Microsoft Cloud services like Microsoft Entra and Microsoft 365, and what was the other one? It's Microsoft Service Management API. So upon doing some homework research on this API, I came to know that it is no longer known as Service Management API. Rather, it is now known as Azure Resource Manager API. And previously, management.core.windows.net was the URL of this API, and now management.azure.com is the URL used to communicate with this API. So we saw that Microsoft Graph API is used for querying data from AD and Entra, and Microsoft 365 and Entra, whereas this Azure Resource Manager API or Service Management API, which is its old name, is used to fetch data from Azure. So on one side we have API to fetch data from Azure. On the other side we have API to fetch data from Microsoft 365 and Entra. So these are the two different APIs that are used in this lab, and we now know that in this scenario they have said that the Azure increasing access within Azure has reached a dead end. So we can definitely query the Azure Resource Manager API, but in the scenario they have explained that it's no longer required and we need to look for other areas. So for this we can query the Graph API and fetch data from the Graph API, trying to fetch sensitive information from Microsoft 365 or Entra. So we know that we are going with Graph API here. Okay, so next what we can do here is that we need to connect to the Graph API, and for it we have this connect mg graph. Okay, and here we will select this user. It has been connected. Yeah, so you can ask, or one can argue that, hey, how will I come to know which PowerShell function, which PowerShell commandlet to call? And you are perfectly right in asking this question. So whenever you get the access, Microsoft documentation is filled with different modules. So nobody knows exact commandlets. It's just that you should be able to find the information that you need. So here we have these two links. This link explains the Microsoft Graph PowerShell SDK that we are currently using. It says that connect mg graph is the command. We get the signed in user, we can use get mg user. So the documentation is there. You just need to search. You do not need to remember these commands at all, and I didn't as well. I have just written the commands here in the notes. And once we have connected to this mg graph API using our user, we will get the licenses assigned to this user to see what can we do exactly using the Graph API, and that will be defined the licenses we have. So we'll run this command. Okay, so here we can see that for some reason the output is not complete. Yeah, so here we can see that we have the IDs, SKU ID and SKU part number, which is O365 Business Essentials. So our license is O365 Business Essentials, and we can see that this is related to Microsoft 365 Business Basic, and in this plan you should have Outlook, Teams, yeah, Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, Exchange. And these are the services that are included in this plan, O365 Business Essentials. So now we know that this user Clara has this license and probably has these services assigned to him or her, sorry, as well. I'm not sure, him or her. So next, what we will do is that obviously we need to fetch information from these services. So let's see what is GraphRunner. So from the same author, we have another tool, which is GraphRunner, a post-exploitation tool set for interacting with the Microsoft Graph API. Obviously, we can do everything manually. We have the API, we can use PowerShell commandlets and whatnot, but that will take some time to figure out everything. Why not use a tool that is designed for the exact same purpose, and which is GraphRunner, and we will use different modules of it to dump the data. So just like we downloaded MFA sweep, we will download GraphRunner here. Okay, so it is imported. Now we will see the modules that we have. I don't know why am I not able to increase the size of this PowerShell. Anyways, so we have a lot of modules: get graph tokens, refresh graph tokens, graph recon, dump conditional access policies, dump apps, search mailbox, search teams. These modules look interesting. So to do anything, we need our GraphRunner to authenticate to Graph API. Yeah, we did the authentication using the commandlet, PowerShell commandlet, but for this tool we need to do it separately, and we'll run get graph tokens. We need to open this URL. Okay, so I missed one, and just paste this code here. Select our Clara Miller account, and we should be now authenticated here. Yeah, your access token is set to successful authentication. Access and refresh tokens have been returned to a global variable, $tokens variable, and your access token is set to expire on blah blah blah. So now we are ready to start dumping the data. Here, let's run this commandlet, which is invoke search SharePoint and OneDrive, and it is pretty obvious what this commandlet will do. It will search the SharePoint and OneDrive. Tokens, dash tokens, we are supplying the tokens via the global variable that is defined by the GraphRunner authenticator, as mentioned here. And in the search term, we are mentioning password. So we are searching for password term in SharePoint and OneDrive. So we have some passwords here, like in password.xlsx file and in financelogins.docx. It asks us that, do you want to download any of these files? I will enter all, and it will then download all the files. Nope. Okay, so similarly I will use some other commands as well to complete my recon here. Why are we searching for bonus? Probably because bonus details or salary details are confidential in an organization, and they might be stored in a file that is secret. No exact reason I can say here, but this is part of this lab, so that's why. So we have this bonus confidential.xlsx file as well, which is stored in the SharePoint here, in the location. It has its creation date, size, preview. So we will download this as well. No. So once we have these files here in the download Pwnedlabs, so we can see that when we open passwords.xlsx, we have Azure password, we have dev environment password, one password. So definitely sensitive information. We have finance team logins, some more passwords here, and then we have another file that is password protected. So we have as of now searched the teams and SharePoint so far, and now we have, using the GraphRunner tool, we have search teams and search mailbox as well. So search teams will search in the chat, and search mailbox will search in Outlook. So invoke search teams. Yeah, so here we have these teams messages. Password open me 123 speech mark, call IT to reset my password, call IT to reset my password, and again open me 123 speech mark. So we can open this file using open me 123 speech mark, open me 123 speech mark. And here we have, as expected, some bonus details of the employees of this organization. Lastly, what we can do is that we have looked at SharePoint, we have looked at Teams. Now it's the time to look at the mailbox. So similarly, we have tokens here, search term, message count 40. So we are searching for 40 emails. And here we can see that we have username finance reports, password this, server mbt finance database.windows.net, and database name is finance. So these details are related to Azure SQL. So we can connect to this using Visual Studio Code. There are other options as well, but I prefer this one. So we will, so I already added this connection. Maybe let me just delete this one, and for sake of this video try adding again. So let's give this name anything, Pwnedlabs. Server is mbt-finance.database.windows.net, mbt-finance.database.windows.net. database name is finance. Here it's finance, and username is finance reports, password is this. Okay, was it finance reports? Yeah, finance reports. Okay, so let's connect to it. Yeah, so we are connected to this database. It has some tables, DBO subscribers, columns. Let's see what we can do here. Yeah, let's fetch these top 1000 records. Is it even doing anything? Okay, this is the query, selecting top 1000, all column names from this table, and here we have the sensitive information, card number, expiry date, full name, CVV, and whatnot. So this is pretty much it. This is the lab. This solves this lab. This was more towards demonstrating how GraphRunner can be used to fetch all this sensitive information from the Graph API. So one question you might ask to yourself is that, could we sign into Azure? I tried signing into Azure, and from there we can access the Azure SQL database and fetch the data instead of fetching it from VS Code. We can definitely do it. So we can fetch the connection string from there as well, instead, if there wasn't a connection string in the mailbox. So for that, we could have signed into Azure, but for this lab, I tried signing in, but it kept logging me out. Maybe it is something related to this lab, but in real life scenario, we can definitely sign into Azure. So another question is, why do we need to use GraphRunner, like searching mailbox, searching Teams, etc.? So can we, or could we sign into Outlook Teams using the same credentials? So we saw in the MFA sweep tool that these M365 has MFA enabled. So whenever you try to log into Teams or something, let's, for the sake of proof, let's try signing into Outlook here using this Clara user. So it just straight away asks for MFA. So that's why we use the Graph API, for which MFA was not required, and we use GraphRunner for fetching the data from GraphRunner. So having said that, what are the takeaways? So I think MFA sweep is something that might become irrelevant, because Microsoft is pushing out MFA and enforcing it for probably all of his services, and it will become a norm. Microsoft claims that having MFA solves the most of the cyber attacks that are related to phishing. So phishing is not going to be relevant here, because MFA will be enabled by default on most of the Azure services and Microsoft services. So this MFA sweep tool, I don't think so that it is going to be relevant in future, but having secrets in SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams is a very common bad practice. Yeah, this is really very common. So we learned using GraphRunner that how we can fetch the secrets from tools like SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams using GraphRunner or Microsoft Graph API. So as far as the Graph API and GraphRunner is concerned, so that is something that we can take away from this lab as a learning. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much everyone for watching. Do share your feedback regarding the video. Thank you. Bye.